Is visiting online. The UU Fellowship of Lake Norman, also known as the Unitarians of Lake Norman, is an open and inclusive congregation. Our members walk diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Jim Price, and I've been an active member of this congregation since 2019 and a Unitarian since 2012. Today, Tim's title is DEI through the lens of the 7 UU principles. DEI has come under fire from the political right in recent years. What is DEI and how is it related to our UU principles? Should we stand up for DEI programs or just let them fade away? Tim has been in UU since 2007, and he is an active member of this congregation since 2019, and he's just a doggone good guy. That's ad lib. He is active in the music program, the animal ministry, and the road cleanup project. And now please join me in saying our chalice lighting words that are in the order of service. We light this flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In our search for truth, may we be just. In our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. And now I invite Tim to offer his opening words for the service.
Good morning. Friends, today we explored diversity, equity, and inclusion, and sustainability, collectively known as DEI. It's not just legal jargon, it's about creating a just world where everyone feels valued. Like our 7 principles, DEI aims to dismantle barriers and build fairness for all. Today we'll delve into how DEI connects to social justice efforts and our UU values. Consider this news through the last few months. This past March, the University of Florida cut its DEI chief due to new state laws which defunded DEI programs. In May, the University of North Carolina system voted to eliminate DEI programs and jobs across all 17 universities in the university system, citing cost reduction. I doubt that was the real reason. And more recently, at the University of Texas at Austin, DEI funding was cut for a graduation ceremony that celebrated the Latino culture of the students. Instead, the event was held off campus and paid for privately. Let's review. Initially, DEI stood for diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's about creating workplaces and communities where everyone feels valued, respected, and empowered to reach their full potential. DEI started back in the 60s with the civil rights movement. Remember that? Most of us lived through that. I think all of us just about. You got Denise sitting in the corner. And I won't speak for Susan. Well, let's avoid those issues. The movement led to the passage of landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act, which outlawed discrimination based on race, sex, color, and religion. It's a big deal. In 1972, Virginia became the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, which guaranteed equal rights for women. And so equal rights for women were added to the DEI framework. By the 1980s, DEI started to encompass a wider range of identities, including ethnicity, disability, and sexual orientation. While DEI doesn't directly address environmental issues, it fosters a culture where diverse perspectives are valued. This can lead to more sustainable practices as everyone considers the environment through the equitable lenses. So over the last few years, green programs have increasingly been included under the DEI umbrella. DEI goes beyond hiring. It creates space where everyone feels welcome, valued, and heard, not just the usual voices. That's why I like the cheer song so much. It's right there, right where we want to be. Some of you might be thinking, DEI, never heard of it. Maybe you haven't been in the workforce for a while, or maybe you have always worked in a smaller business or from home. These federal laws and regulations do not apply. There are occasionally some state laws that are parallel. I grew up in this kind of circumstance. My dad was a small business owner of 3 floral shops. He was a good man who employed women and members of the LGBT community without any issue. And let me tell you, his team were excellent floral designers, better than most men. Well, except for my dad, but I'm a little biased. So while you might be aware of social justice issues, thanks to our awesome UU Church, what DEI is and how DEI is implemented might be new to you. If you served in the military, studied at a university, or worked in corporate America these last few years where DEI laws and regulations did apply, you may have seen versions of these programs. I've been in college or corporate America since 1974. I've seen a lot of them. As a shorthand in this conversation, I'll say businesses for anything that the DEI laws apply to. So we can group all the different kinds of organizations and churches and nonprofits, all of them into one organization. It's quite well known that businesses are under pressure and due to DEI regulations to actively hire and promote a diverse workforce. Beyond that, let me describe the efforts going on at one big company so we can have a common understanding of what DEI is about. Businesses frequently promote DEI affiliation team, or DATs. This is my term because, as you'll see, every company has different terms. My current employer uses employee resource groups, and my client uses business resource groups. So this is not a consistent program across all the corporations. However, I've worked for Wells Fargo on and off for 20 years as a contractor and as an employee. For a time as an employee, I was a member of a DAT called the Abilities Team. It was all about celebrating what people with disabilities could do, not what they couldn't. They were big on using positive language, that's for sure. I qualify as disabled in at least 3 categories: substantial hearing loss, emotional health, I battle anxiety and depression, and neurodiversity. I've been diagnosed with ADHD and PTSD. Notice that just because I compensate or correct for disability does not change my status. I am disabled. This is the 3rd time I've mentioned my disabilities in our services over the last few months. I did this intentionally to somewhat come out of the closet because it's not discussed in general circles too often yet, not as much as other topics, especially since mine are hidden abilities. You have to look closely to see my hearing aids, and you surely don't know about my anxiety or my PTSD. There's now a sunflower emblem that's being used. You can buy lanyards like Natalie's wearing with sunflowers on it, or anything with a sunflower. If you see someone with a sunflower, anything, even just a badge or a lanyard, they are telling you that they are disabled. They have hidden disabilities you can't see. In most cases, they're hidden. And yet, with all my disabilities, I have the ability to perform well in most aspects of my life. By the way, if neurodiverse is a new term for you, it simply means that our brains function in various ways, normal ways. These are no longer considered illnesses to be cured. In this congregation, we do discuss illnesses. However, we generally do not discuss disabilities, which impact some of our members more than illnesses do. Back at Wells Fargo, I also joined the African Black DAT. It's a tough term. I don't like using it because I was somewhat naive about the life experiences of Black folks, and I wanted to learn more about them. They had monthly meetings that were real eye-openers for their perspective on life. Wells Fargo also has Asian Pacific, women, LGBT+, green, and several other DATs. Any employee could join any DAT. It doesn't matter. If you were a natural member of the constituency, as I am with the Abilities DAT, or someone who wanted to learn more about the issues which affected the members. In a specific community, for example, many of our members in the Abilities DAT were caretakers of disabled family members, and some people joined us simply to learn about people with disabilities. Some additional points: individual DEI participation is required in performance goals for employees. It's that serious. All activities regarding DEI were outside in addition to our regular duties, unless the person worked within the actual DEI staff. There were people working to put on these programs. In the US, companies must report annually the DEI participation levels to regulatory agencies. These programs are applied globally, which has the wonderful additional benefit of promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and sustainability around the world. Indirectly, but we do it. Our team members in India and the Philippines have their own DEI programs, even though their countries don't require them. Non-employees like contractors are not permitted to participate in DATs or other activities. It was funny, as I was leaving on Friday, the client I'm working with was having a real big DAT kind of party. And I looked at the food and looked at all the people assembled and said, nope, you're not invited. Kept on walking. It's rare for a company to treat consultants, contractors as employees. Very good reasons for that. That's not even a sermon. It's another discussion. Perhaps you noticed in recent Lake Norman newsletters that I have joined the Charlotte chapter of the Hearing Loss Association of America, HLAA. This path started about 6 years ago after a DEI event at Wells Fargo. I moderated a panel on hearing loss, and 3 of the speakers were from the Charlotte HLAA chapter. They were amazing. All of them had a history of hearing loss, hearing aids, and cochlear implants. That's actually why I recently joined their board. I'm in charge of refreshments, but I got to start somewhere. Let's be honest, DEI programs promote a liberal agenda. So when the UNC system announced the recommendation to cut back on DEI programs because of the financial burden, I thought that sounded suspicious. It feels more like they're trying to silence marginalized voices and suppress social progress. It's worth noting that under current law, which was recently changed here to North Carolina, it removed the influence of the governor. Only the senators and representatives appoint the UNC system board, which currently leans Republican because the House and Senate currently lean Republican. This might explain why the committee decided to cut DEI programs. It's a liberal program, let's get rid of it. But here's the good news. As Unitarian Universalists, we have a powerful framework to help us evaluate the value of DEI programs, our 7 UU principles. Let's see how DEI programs and UU principles compare. The first principle, based on the inherent worth and dignity of every person. The second principle, based on justice, equity, and compassion in human relationships. And the portion of the third principle, acceptance of one another, all sound like a lot like the essence of DEI programs. Both the DEI programs and the heart of the UU principles are trying to give everyone a fair shot to succeed and an environment in which they can feel safe to be themselves, right? On the third principle, UUs go off in a different direction by encouraging people to find a spiritual path, something we would not want businesses to get involved in. So that's okay. The fourth, fifth, and sixth principles, frankly, do not have any similar aspects of DEI policies. It's not a program. That's not problem. A program, problem. And the seventh principle, regarding the interdependent web of all existence related to DEI programs, in terms of sustainability programs, which makes a lot of sense to UUs. Green dads are becoming one of the most common and popular DEI affiliation teams. The fight for DEI is deeply connected to ongoing struggles for social justice. It's about dismantling those systems that keep folks down and making sure everyone has a fair shot. And that, my friend, aligns DEI perfectly with our UU values. UUs can be powerful advocates for DEI. We can challenge discrimination, support our colleagues, and champion policies that promote diversity, inclusion, equity, and sustainability. We can hold our employers and government agencies and even churches accountable, no matter their size. Let's weave a more vibrant tapestry throughout our society, one that reflects the richness of diversity of our world. If you're interested in calling or sending a letter, I would recommend you contact your state, North Carolina State Senator Representative. They select the board. Our talkback question today is, given the UU principles, what can we do to restore and promote DEI programs in North Carolina higher education? Jimmy, you want to join me? See what challenges they can give us?
Talk back.
Got a question. Green, did I hear you say green? Yes. Okay, could you explain?
Real after.
A little more explanation on green, green, is that what you said?
Green is environmental.
And how's that a DEI?
They were just they got tired of adding letters. You know how it used to be LGBTQ plus. Well, they didn't want to do that with DEI. They had DEI, and they added feminism and even ethnicity, and they didn't want to add another letter and whoever the powers would be. expand and include environmental. But I can tell you that almost every company that has DEI programs includes environmental climate change as one of the affiliation teams.
Okay, it seems to me that all those other DEIs have to do with people. And sustainability and environment stuff is very good, but I just don't see how that's DEI.
I can tell you that people have to do the sustaining. And to look at the sustainability from the lenses, the bottom line is this, to be honest, DEI is the liberal attempt to get our beliefs into government laws and policies. I'll come over to the mic myself.
Can I speak? Okay, Susan, I think that he's talking about his company. You're talking about your company.
There was my one company, Wells Fargo, Bank of America has it, so does my current employers.
But it's a little confusing though. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'd like to address what you said, that it's a liberal cause. It's not a liberal cause. It's diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, that you could argue that that's a conservative clause. I mean, what does the Statue of Liberty say? Bring us your huddled masses. I mean,
I hear your point, but I wonder about the people who are true MAGA followers.
But
And they're in my companies, and they're supposed to go to one of these DATs, and they're saying to themselves, I don't want to be here. It's not one I believe. And there is that line, but the companies demand, because the federal law demands that everyone follow the DEI programs.
But I think you help their cause when you call it a liberal program. It's not a liberal.
I think I'm
program.
being very realistic that it is a liberal program.
Well, I disagree with you. This is talk back, and I disagree with you.
We're
Okay,
going to have
Greg.
two.
With regards to it being a liberal program, as you pointed out when you started off talking about this being a program to break down the barriers that were excluding people, just like going all the way back to the women's right to vote. That was a inclusionary program that was changing things. They didn't call it DEI at the time. All of the things, the civil rights movement, all of those things were part of. And when they came about with the Civil Rights Act that said you can't discriminate. You can't discriminate was discriminate against all of these things. Women in the workplace, people of color, everything. And so being a liberal program, I guess from that standpoint, the whole foundation of the country is a liberal program. It was about including people and recognizing people's individuals' right to exist.
I believe in all the rights. I believe in DEI. I believe in all this stuff. It aligns well with me. But Jim, I can tell you that the reason that it was taken out of the North Carolina universities was because of the non-liberal folks didn't agree with it.
Well, I agree with you there entirely. Yeah.
It's the
I'm
whole
just
thing
saying.
about
Yeah, go ahead.
when people talk about America has fallen off of its greatness, America has been in decline, and this goes back before Trump and his noise, but people talking about we need to go back to when America was great. When we talk to those people and ask about that, it is the whole thing of the civil rights and social programs that opened up the community to say we're more inclusive. We need to not discriminate. And so.
The good old days were not that good.
Yes, we do need to discriminate. Yes, we do need to hold this back. And yes, we do need to exclude those people and cut out these programs of wokeness.
Yes, I didn't use that word, but it wouldn't be hard for me to understand someone saying, DEI is just a woke program. I don't want it.
You just haven't said that.
It's just another word.
That is what they're saying. Yeah.
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 Someone else? Yes. I don't know if that mic's working.
1, 2, 3.
That much better, thank you.
I have a question for both of you or anyone else to respond to. How would you respond? You probably have heard recently that one of the candidates for governor, Mark Robinson, has said a phrase, and I've heard and read many people across the country who are in politics say this, that DEI stands for destruction of excellence and incentive by reducing the qualifications to enter various colleges and universities, by taking away the SAT, by taking away things that people worked for to try to get to those colleges, DEI, destruction of excellence and incentives. And you hear that, now Mark Robinson, I think, is about as elite as they come, but
More so, yes.
maybe more so. But that's my question to anyone who might want to speak on
that. I'm sorry, what was the question aspect of it? I thought what you said was perfect.
The question is, what would be your response upon hearing that?
My personal response would be offensiveness, because they're taking something that's even in law, federal law, recorded as what it is. It's diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion. And right away, they're changing it to their own image.
I think he's speaking about how we don't never know what he's really speaking about, but I think many people are speaking about you can write it any way you want in law, and it may not remain in law forever. But I think he was saying how he has viewed what he's actually done, rather than how it's written.
It's the same thing they say about affirmative action. That, it just lowers the bar so that you get people that aren't qualified.
But it's not true.
Well,
They say it, but it's
that's
not
what,
true.
yeah, that's their argument against it.
I can't express to you strongly enough how much in the corporations I'm aware of, this is a positive effect, not a negative. The amount of minorities who have succeeded beyond imagination when they were kids, I'm sure, because of DEI at Bank of America and Wells Fargo. And I currently work at TIA. Trying to remember where we are. We're in Cornelius, but TIA is in University City. I am thrilled by the amount of people that feel empowered by the DEI programs. And when you look at the organizations, you see the minorities folks getting a step up that they would not have had anywhere else. To me, it's really heartwarming. TIAA right now is led by a young Black woman, which I'm sure she worked very hard, but she had a few doors open for her because of DEI. I don't mind that it does, in fact, give people chances. Unfortunately, it does hurt. Someone else didn't get that chance. I don't know who that was. But I'll keep with our positive perspective on DEI and won't go to the woke, anti-woke. Won't go to the phrase you used, I forget the DEI used.
Destruction of excellence from where you are, and incentives, giving people an incentive to try.
Your question directly addresses the cultural wars we are currently having, and this is the divide. Linda, please.
I just said, speaking of Mark Robinson, somebody knocked on my door. Somebody knocked on my door 2 days ago. Nice, anyway. He seemed okay, and then he said, well, I'm here to talk about Mark Robinson, and are you going to vote for him? And I said, I wouldn't vote for him if he was the last man on earth. And the fellow was very nice and polite and said, well, thank you very much. I didn't realize, I don't know what he stood for, but he was getting paid to do this job, and fine. Yeah, so that's my story.
Natalie, please.
Natalie.
Up front here. Here comes the microphone.
Okay,
Oh.
are people being punished for implementing these kind of programs on the QT? I'm especially, wondering about teachers. If you start teaching inclusion, do you get in trouble?
Well, I got to admit, you're way outside my expertise.
Sadly, yes, in many cases.
In Florida.
Yeah. And it's a shame when you can't teach the truth.
Yeah, and in companies.
Pass the microphone this way.
Just a comment on,
Greg, go ahead and use it.
yeah, thinking about the whole thing with, you mentioned that DEI helps empower people. Of course, affirmative action, all of those things brings people up that were otherwise discriminated against and empowers them. And the whole thing against it is about power. It's about control. And it's saying that, all of these programs that might give somebody a chance to step up and raise their voice and bring something against the powers to be. That's why there's such a backlash against it and has been since the beginning. It's all about power.
I think so.
Sandy.
Lynn can jump in here, then we have Sandy and Sue back there. Do you have your hand up too?
Let's say something like this.
Okay, Sandy, please then.
To Lynn's point about the destruction of excellence and initiative, incentive and initiative. I think that's an accurate explanation of it. If you're looking at a bunch of white guys who can very easily be excellent if they have no competition from the rest of the world, and they can slide into jobs and promotions just by breathing in and out. And these programs do destroy that ease of access for one group of people. They don't have to show much initiative. They could inherit a job. They could inherit a pile of money. They don't have to do much. And with competition from people who look a little different from them or act a little different from them, they have to work a lot harder to show initiative and incentive. And the excellence comes easily if you don't have much competition. DEI programs and all the other benefits of the whole civil rights era just opened up that competition to a whole lot of people that, in the rights view, should never have had that opportunity. I mean, we didn't mean for it to include them. We sure didn't mean for it to include them.
Here.
Anyone else? Linda, you have a follow-up?
Sue.
Yeah, one thing I would say is that today Tim has mainly been talking about programs in business, and that is federally mandated. But we also have been talking about those programs in higher education and also in all educational levels in some places. And we need to remember that can be taken away, and it just has. It may still be federally mandated, and large companies are going to follow it. They don't want the backlash if they didn't. But for institutes of education, that can be taken away. And it has. We've seen that in North Carolina. And so I think we need to be mindful of that and mindful that these programs, they weren't called DEI, but they've been around for a long, long time. In my years in radio, I was required as a manager for us to keep our license to show how many people of color I had interviewed for a particular job. Now, if no one who fit those demographics came forward, wanted to interview, I had to get on the phone and call people, like at Johnson C. Smith or at different Livingston, and say, do you have anyone that might be at all interested? Because we had to check those boxes. And that was federally mandated at the time, and that went away. So I just say be mindful that these programs can be taken away, and they have in institutes of higher learning. So I try to understand what people are feeling about them. I know that Bank of America will hang in there, Wells Fargo will, and TIA, I did the grant over their building, by the way, years ago. They will hang in there, but colleges, since they are ruled by boards, may not.
I guess I have sort of a question in this. I was advantaged by one of these programs. I graduated from college in 1972, and at that point it was the feminist movement. And I didn't find out until after I was hired that I was hired because the federal government had been there and they didn't have any women management trainees. They had hired like 25 young guys, and they thought I was a plant. I came in and asked, asked to have my address changed. And I changed it from my parents to my aunt and uncles, but they couldn't find my application. And they said to me, "You weren't by any chance applying for management training, were you?" It's like, well, yeah, I got a 4-year degree and I worked at a bank. And it was like, oh, those are two separate file cabinets. We don't have women in the file cabinet, basically, with college men. But what I felt was I got a chance and I proved myself. And for a while I felt like, oh gee, am I just here because, they had to hire somebody and I showed up at the right time. But then I got some feeling that I did better than a lot of those guys. And they put us all in a course together, on analyzing financial statements. And I beat all the guys, and I thought afterwards, what in the heck is going on? Because my degree is sociology, and all of them were business majors. Why didn't they already know this stuff? But when I got a chance to learn it, I was able to do that. I don't know how long down the path that gets to stay. I think one of the things that may be a problem is if you have somebody who isn't competent and once they're given a chance, can't, cut the mustard, do you have to keep them in the job? And, although there are opportunities like when you say, do you get promoted or not, I guess it continues throughout the system. But, if you hire somebody incompetent who cannot, in a reasonable period of time, rise to a level of competence, I don't think that helps anything.
A couple of thoughts. I do have one bone to pick with you, Tim, when you said our legislature leans Republican. When you have a conservative, when you have a supermajority, you're doing more than leaning.
Yeah, they fell.
That's just a footnote. One of the things I learned in organizational behavior classes in graduate school was any organization has the first goal of the organization is self-perpetuation. The second goal might be whatever the line work of the organization is. So that applies to accrediting agencies or whoever, you build barriers and we've seen that. But I want to, I guess what I'd have to list, probably my favorite charity is Habitat for Humanity, because their motto is a hand up, not a hand out. And that's the way I try to explain the affirmative action concepts to people. I worked 30 years for the feds. The first 8 years of it, I worked in human resources, and most of it in employee and labor relations. So I dealt a lot with the early days of affirmative action. And that was the way we tried to explain it. But you have that issue of, but I've worked so hard to get where I am. And the way I would explain it to people, I worked just as hard as anybody else. But I had, eventually, I had to recognize my white maleness got me in the door to show that I could do the job quicker than it got a woman, a black, or even worse, a black one. I mean, Black gay one. Definitely had problems.
Black
getting
woman
in order
Jew,
to even show the ability. But for, and one last point on what Sue said, at some point, even with affirmative action, I was instrumental in helping to move people out of jobs after being given a chance. It can be done. It's hard, and attention has to be paid to it. But if the manager was willing, those things could be done. But you had to make the reasonable effort to give them the chance to succeed. And that's the hard part.
Anyone else?
You stimulated some thoughts.
I should have done this one during the joys section. My younger daughter up in the Rochester area just got herself a job after finishing her master's and giving birth to her child. But her job is at a university and it's assistant director of community engagement. And part of her background is in her master's degree, DEI and critical race theory courses. And because she's in New York State and private universities, she's able to do all that and hoping to make a difference. But awfully proud of her. And it's nice to see that there are some places that will still engage in these in a positive way.
Let me wrap this all up by saying if the Republicans have a major win in November, not just the White House, but in the Senate and even the House of Representatives, there's a good chance many DEI programs will officially go away. The secondary aspect to that is which companies will truly get rid of them. I doubt that there won't be, I believe every company will trim them somewhat, at least a little bit to save some money. And some will actually keep them full force because they actually believe it. We'll see, but there's a risk for DEI, for equity, for inclusion, diversity, and yes, for green, with Republicans winning in the fall. Major risk for all of it. Thank you.
Okay, well, Tim has certainly stimulated some thought and responses. Thank everybody for responding. And thank you, Tim, for your words. This fellowship is important to us all. The contributions we make today allow us to sustain and grow our congregation.
We have a song here.
Oh, excuse me. Yes. We have a musical reflection with Mike. Thank you.
Linda was out there waiting too.
Still like what you had to say. It works. Does anybody mind if I change the reflection song from the Dylan? Because we just did that one not that long ago. Is that right? Nobody cares.
No. Play on.
The sound is okay.
Secret ancient Chinese tune. I haven't done this in a while. This is a song our band used to encore with in New York, but it's been a while. Raise your voices if you dare. 'Cause there ain't no heat we can't bear, no. Let your spirit drown the cup. Wash it down just to lift us up. Hey, don't you think that we could pull it together? We should set some sights I think if we put it together, don't you believe that it would be alright? Are you ready for the change? Get ready now, tide believers washed ashore. You join the ranks, you close that door. You were there when I was young, breaking boundaries I recall. Hey, don't you think that we should pull it together? We could set some sights. I believe it. Don't you believe it? I think it's gonna really be alright. Are you ready for the change? Get ready now. Slip into the change. Hang steady now. It's cutting out. Sad young voices gather round. Your shattered dreams, they're on the ground. This future world, it's lined with rust. And star-eyed leaders we can't trust. Hey, don't you think that we could pull it together? We should set some sights. I believe it. Don't you believe it? I think it's gonna really be alright. Are you ready for the change? Get ready now. Slip into the change. Slip into the change. Slip into the change. Hang steady now. Now, Jim.
Thank you very much, and thank you for reminding me. This fellowship is important to us all. The contributions we make today allow us to sustain and grow our congregation and to reach out to our community, both nearby and in the larger world. Your giving affirms our commitment to each other and to the community. You best one.
Did I miss it? Okay. Thank you.
With grateful hearts, we receive these gifts. May they encourage us to live lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. There are some announcements in the order of service. Everybody is invited after today's service to get to know some of our members or go out for, is there a dinner today? McAllister's, yes. Yeah. Thank you. So some folks will be going to McAllister's after service for the social supper. The movie Tuesday, this Tuesday, the movie is Tuesday. The movie is Tuesday and it's on Tuesday. And it's at 12:45. Linda does an excellent job selecting the movies and it's a fun thing to do if you've never done it. Okay, the Heart of the Carolinas Animal Ministry built a dog fence yesterday for 2 puppies, and it was in honor of my dog Pie, and it was a very sweet experience, and we had nice turnout of people and built a nice fence. Next Feed and See is July 11th, in spite of what you might read in the bulletin. So it's July 11th, not the 12th, and the starting time is now 10:30. Correct. Pardon me?
10:30 to 2:30.
10:30 until 2:30.
The time for lunch, particularly for George.
Right. And volunteers are always welcome and needed. And Jim Arnold is point person for that. Contrary, Linda is not taking wine these days. That's a malapropism. Let's see. Okay, and then there's something about next week's service. So that's the announcements. Our closing song today is Imagine. It's a beautiful song, and the words are in the order of service as well. Tim and Mike.
Apparently my guitar cable is ill. So, what are we doing? All natural here.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. Isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us in a world that is one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No greed or hunger. Brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us in a world where we live as one.
Beautiful song. Be seated, please. Okay, you have closing words, Tim?
Very simply, go forth, put some diversity, equity, inclusion, sustainability and the 7 UU principles into your life.
Yes. Agreed entirely. Okay, let's see. All right, we're going to extinguish the chalice. Please say with me the chalice extinguishing words. They're in the order of service, and we hold hands. Pat likes us to hold hands. And we like to hold hands. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Okay.
Go now in peace.
Go now in peace. Let the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Try again. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Good service.
Thank you, Jim.
You gotta get the new names. I'll go by David. That's my middle name.
Skip the music.
We don't have David.
I get